Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I apologize if my voice sounds a little weird, I am under the weather. I wanted to go over every single Commander set since the very first one in 2011, just to kind of give you guys my opinion on each one of these sets, and especially for newcomers to the format, just so that they can understand our expectations, our standards after each year, moving on to the next one. Mostly because there's a lot of complaints about Commander 2018 and a lot of it's justified, so if I can help anyone else understand the importance of this product and why we have such high expectations for it, then I think that you'll understand as well. So the very first Commander set was just called Commander. It was released in, I believe, June of 2011, somewhere around that time. We had 5 Commander decks, and this trend would continue up until Commander 2017 when they decided to go to 4. We had Heavenly Inferno, which was the Mardu deck. Had a theme around angels, demons, and dragons, specifically with the commander Kaalia the Vast. She is really cool, and for a long time, many would consider her to be one of the most powerful and intimidating commanders in the format. She still can be at times, but there's definitely a lot more pressure with the introduction of a lot of powerful commanders since this time. We had Mirror Mastery, which is the deck that did come with Animar, Soul of Elements, another really powerful commander. For a long time also, Animar considered to be one of, if not the most powerful commander. Primarily a creature deck, but you also had a theme with Riku, where you could also copy instants and sorceries. We had Counterpunch, which was the Abzan color deck. All of these, by the way, were considered the wedge decks, because we had the wedges and then we had the shards. Counterpunch had a theme around the graveyard, counters. It gave Guru of Spores, but you also had Carador, Ghost Chieftain. So 2 very different strategies, but also 2 very awesome, very fun to build around commanders. And you had Political Puppets, another really fun deck. This is where you had politics as a primary focus for the deck. You have Zedru the Greathearted, you also had Ruhan of the Fomori, and you had themes of Group Hug, but you also had themes of Chaos. So that was a really fun time. And then you had Devour for Power, which was also kind of a graveyard-based deck, but also control themes with Damia, Sage of Stone. So all of these were really cool, very basic, maybe not as theme-heavy as some more recent decks, but many would still consider this to be the best commander set, just because we've seen so many powerful cards come from this. It was the original printing of Flusterstorm, which for a while had been extremely expensive because of vintage. So you had a lot of value here. You had a lot of good, awesome commander options, which are still going to hold their value, by the way. Kaalia still going to be a decent amount of money to get her, as well as some other commanders like Animar. Commander 2013 is probably my personal favorite. This is when we were introduced to the shards. So we got the other 5 3-color combinations. The Bant one was Evasive Maneuvers, probably my favorite of the precon decks here because it's dirt cheap, but you also had just a really fun strategy here with blinking, getting value off of creature ETBs with Rune of the Hidden Realm. But Derevi was also very unique, maybe not the easiest to play if you're new to the format, but very thought-provoking if you want to really challenge yourself and build a deck around her. There's a million directions you can go with. Eternal Bargain is probably one of the more infamous ones with Oloro. Everybody seems to hate this guy, doesn't ever have to be on the field for any reason unless you're desperate for some card draw. You just gain 2 life each one of your upkeeps, and anything that synergizes with life gain triggers is golden with him. But you also had Sidri, Galvanic Genius, very creative there. And then Mind Seize with Nekasar, the Mind Tracer, also extremely creative. And you also have one of the most competitive commanders in the format in Jaleva, so don't forget about her. And then Power Hungry, one of my favorite commander options in Prosh, Skyraider of Care. And then you had the Naya deck, which was kind of similar with Marath, Will of the Wild. Themes were a little bit stronger, but for the most part it seemed to carry on the 3-color combination, loose themes, sub-themes, kind of what they did with the previous year. There wasn't just one major theme that they stuck to. They went in multiple directions, which then brings us to Commander 2014. You had Forged in Stone, Peer Through Time, Sworn to Darkness, Built from Scratch, Guided by Nature. All of these were monocolor decks, and they all were Planeswalker decks. The Planeswalkers were introduced as commanders in this set, but for the most part these aren't very competitive decks, and it's kind of like the previous years, but even worse, I would say, because adhering to a certain theme is a little bit harder to do because you're basically playing good stuff white, playing good stuff blue, good stuff black, good stuff red, and good stuff green, which if you're going on theme alone, there's so many themes in each individual color, and it didn't really seem like they were going to adhere to any one theme in particular, beyond maybe artifacts in the built from scratch deck. But as far as playable commander options go, I would honestly say this is probably one of the weakest commander sets. We do have Teferi Temporal Archmage, which is the most competitive commander, I would say, out of these 5. You have some pretty oppressive locks with Stasis, but overall I do think that Guided by Nature and Built from Scratch are pretty good if you want to build an average, but at times hyper-competitive commander deck. Commander 2015 was also pretty good, kind of underrated, especially when I look at a deck like Call of the Spirits. I mean, you had Karlov, you had the new Daxos, interesting commander options, but it didn't really seem like a lot of people talk about this deck over Plunder the Graves, which I think everybody has played Marin at least once, at least enough times to know what she's capable of doing. But you also had Seize Control, the blue-red deck, Wade into Battle, the Boros deck, which had a decent number of reprints and a lot of value in it, so don't be turned off by the lack of interesting commander options. We had Swell the Host, which was the blue-green deck, and also pretty good as well if you want to go with combos. There is an Infinite Turn combo with Azuri. I would say these actually had a much stronger theme. Call of the Spirits was more about enchantments, more about life gain at times. Seize Control, exactly what it is. It's just a control deck focused around instants and sorceries. Plunder the Graves, graveyard themed deck. Wade into Battle, it's a combat deck. Swell the Host, you're putting +1/+1 counters on small creatures. I mean, all of these did a good job of adhering to their respective themes. So as far as doing that one thing right, Commander 2015 did it. Not to say that the previous years didn't do a good job with themes, because you can still have a good deck that goes in multiple different directions. It's just when you have an advertised theme, at least I appreciate it when they adhere to that theme. And then Commander 2016 is arguably everyone's favorite. I remember asking a lot of people what their favorite commander set was, and most of them, I would say at least 60% of them said Commander 2016, because you had so much innovation here. I would say you don't really need to adhere to a theme if you have so much new shit going on for you. You had 4-color decks, 5 of them. This was the last year they gave us 5 commander decks, and each one of these had partner commanders, which means that if the other commander had partner, you could play 2 of them as your commander, which was amazing. You could have different combinations, different deck ideas, all introduced with Commander 2016. This was the year after 2015, which I know a lot of people were probably upset they didn't just continue the guilds. Hey, let's get the other 5 2-color decks. Still waiting for that to happen. Probably not going to happen anytime soon, but we saw what they did with the wedges first and then the shards second. I was at least anticipating Commander 2016 to be a continuation of that theme, but I don't think anybody is really disappointed with Commander 2016. Amazing. Maybe the print run is the only thing people were really disappointed in. And then Commander 2017, maybe not as hyped up about 2017 as I was about 2016, but they did enough differently to inspire a lot of people to want to build with these decks. You had a 5-color dragon deck. This was tribal themed, by the way. 2-color cat deck. 3-color vampire bloodlust. Mardu colored vampires. I mean, that's incredibly interesting. Before, we didn't really have any white vampire themed decks. We had arcane wizardry, a Grixis wizard deck. I mean, a lot of people were extremely excited to get a tribal themed deck this year. So as far as adhering to a theme, these did a very good job. Maybe not the innovation that we were looking forward to, but still, you set out to make tribal themed decks. This was advertised well in advance, and we got tribal themed decks. So exactly what we wanted. And then we come to Commander 2018. Same thing as the previous year, only 4 decks, and they're going with themes as opposed to the color wheel. So you're going to have different combinations of colors. Exquisite Inventions for artifacts, Nature's Vengeance for lands, Adaptive Enchantment for enchantments, and Subjective Reality for top deck matters. These are the advertised themes. So while for the most part they adhere to these themes, you have a lot of people complaining and saying that it's very generic, not exactly what they were looking for, not a lot of new things, not a lot of new mechanics are introduced, but the reprints that you get are lackluster and lacking in overall value. This in addition to the fact this is the first year that they bumped the MSRP up to $40, which wouldn't be a problem. I think a lot of people would be willing to pay more for these so long as you keep the quality up. and unfortunately it doesn't seem that we have an improved quality with these decks and what we're capable of doing with them. Not to say that any of these commander options are going to be poor, it just seems that the starting point that we have here, the creativity that should be inspired, just isn't there. Yeah, the individual themes, they might be there, they might have the support, but it seems very generic, nothing new, nothing that we haven't really seen before. We've seen artifact themed decks. We had Invent Superiority, we had an enchantment based deck in Commander 2015 with Call the Spirits. While that one wasn't spectacular by any means, this one is more of an aura based deck, not necessarily an enchantment one. And then we have Subjective Reality, which might actually be the most unique out of these 4 decks, but it does seem like it's this year's weirdo deck where there's not really anything super strong about it, but it just does a lot of random stuff that could be considered interesting. And Nature's Vengeance, it's a little bit new. We don't necessarily have strong land themes in previous years. I guess Plunder the Graves might be the only deck I would consider anywhere near a land theme, but as far as adhering to the land strategy, not the best reprints they could have put into this deck. So as far as my complaints go for this year, understand that in previous years we had better reprints for a lower MSRP, and we had much better innovation. Even going back to the original Commander set and Commander 2013, these decks didn't necessarily have a strong theme, but they did give you a lot of value, a lot of new cards, different things that we haven't seen before. These were the first 2 Commander sets, so our expectations weren't as high as they are now, but still they managed to live up to our expectations, and that's the most important thing. Not saying that we should have an unrealistic set of expectations for these commander decks, but it's not so much that we want them to be better every single year. We want them to at least maintain the same quality, and it seems that for a lot of people, Commander 2018 failed in that regard. But anyway, those are just my thoughts on the topic. I'm sure I'm still going to find a lot of things to love about Commander 2018, even though there are a lot of things to be worried about. You guys let me know which Commander set was your favorite. Let me know, if you haven't already, what you think about Commander 2018. As always, you have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.